Hello, this is Chris Cohen with another chess endgame lesson, and today we're going to look at king and two bishops versus king. This ending doesn't come up all that often in practical play, but it's useful to learn because we learn how to coordinate our pieces effectively. In order to win, we need to coordinate our king and two bishops, drive black's king to the edge of the board, and then to the corner of the board where we can give mate. I'm going to show a systematic method for doing this. It's not the fastest way, but it's clear and pretty straightforward. The very first step is that we want to control the two long diagonals with our bishops. Here we could move either bishop. If we make this move, then black's king can gain time by attacking our other bishop. But with white's light square bishop controlling this square, we can take the long diagonal with our dark square bishop and we're on these squares. Black would prefer to keep his king in the center of the board while we try to drive his king to the edge of the board. If he moves to this central square, we can now move this other bishop to the long diagonal. And our next step is to occupy the center squares, the four center squares with our pieces, with our bishops. Here, black can gain a little bit of time by attacking our bishop, but we just move it far away. And on our next move, we can occupy the center. Again, covering this square so that black can't directly attack our piece. Now if black goes here, we can go here. Or if he moves here, then we can go here. The next step is we want to maneuver our king and move our king to one of these two key squares. And with black's king covering d3, we can just make this waiting move with all these squares covered, and we can reach this position. The next step is to shift our two bishops, and we're going to shift them in the direction of the edge of the board. In this case, it's the A file. We're going to move our two bishops and shift them over one file from these two squares to these two squares. And with this position, with our king on this key square, the reason for configuring our pieces this way is that we cover all of these squares, and black's king is forced to move to the edge of the board. Now we can shift our bishops by making this move. Notice that our light square bishop's controlling this square, and our dark square bishop coordinates. Of course, we can immediately, or rather, if we move this bishop, then black's king can attack the bishop, and we lose some time. We do it like this, and we can shift them over one square. We're going to repeat the same idea and get our king to one of these two key squares. In this case, we're going to go to the nearest square. And we repeat. And once again, we're covering every square to the right of the A file. And now black's king is forced to move to the edge of the board. When we've got the king on the edge of the board, we need to make sure that we're covering all the flight squares. Here we cover all the flight squares on the B file to keep black's king to the edge of the board. And if black's king comes off of the edge of the board, then we're going to lose some time and have to repeat. So for example, here we can use our bishop to cover this flight square, and our king covers these squares. If black moves his king here, our king controls all three flight squares. Dark square bishop controls this square. We can give check. and then take the opposition, cutting off this flight square. Once again, black only has one move. And now with our bishop covering a4, we can move our king to take the opposition. And when black's king moves here, we can give check, and now we're covering this flight square. And once again, black's king only has one move. And here we can simply give check. Again, black's king is forced to this square where we can give checkmate. Let's back up and look at how we would proceed if black had chosen a different move on this move. Black could move here. We can approach with our king. Black's king must move to the corner. And we want to keep our flight squares covered. We can do so by moving in our king. Black comes to this side, and we repeat this pattern. Here we need a little bit of checking distance. Or rather, we need to reach this position so that we make a waiting move. And we've got all these squares cut off. Black must move here, and then we can move our bishop here. This is another main pattern. King's in opposition, and the two bishops next to each other on the file or rank next to the edge of the board. Once more, we're cutting off every square except for one, and then we just repeat the pattern. We take the opposition. When black moves here, we've got this square covered. By giving check, we can cover these two squares. And once again, black only has one flight square. With the kings in opposition, our king cuts off the black king. We can give check again. Take the opposition. One more time, and now we've got the mate. And this concludes our look at king and two bishops versus king.